Hello and welcome back to our study of Peninei Halacha, the teachings of Rabbi Eliezer Melamed, Shlita. Chodesh Tov, everyone. It is Rosh Chodesh Shavat. It's actually one of the calendar days that is mentioned directly in the Chumash. I will put that out there for our audience. If anybody knows exactly where it is referenced, you'll get extra credit bonus. Shouldn't be that hard to find, but this exact date is mentioned, which then also I mentioned in Shul that it is exactly 2.5 months until Pesach, so we could kind of put that on our radar. It's always almost Pesach, and also good news out of Israel today. More hostages released, so we continue davening for Chalei Tzva Gana Yisrael, for Shalom L'chol P'tzui Yisrael, and the safe return of all of our hostages. And we'll keep davening and exerting whatever effort that we can until every single one of our family members is home, dedicating our learning to Nishmat, Sarah, Daniel, Shimon, Rav Dron, Vasheli, Hashem Yikum Damo. So the next chapter, Him Chayivim HaTorah. Nechleku HaRishonim B'She'ela. There was a machlokas in the Rishonim about the following question: Haim yesh mitzvah min haTorah lehispal b'chol yom? Is there a mitzvah? Is there a commandment for us to pray every day? Ladasa Rambam, the Rambam writes in the Sefer HaMitzvahs, Mitzvah Hay, that mitzvah min haTorah lehispal b'chol yom. The Rambam says that there is indeed a mitzvah to pray every day because the pasuk says in Shmos Chav Gimel, "Va'avadtem es Hashem Elokechem." You have to serve your Hashem, your God. The Chenemar and the pasuk in Devarim Perek Vav also says es Hashem Elokecha tira va'oso ta'avod. The same word ta'avod, to serve. Va'av sheish b'psukim elu tzuvi klali shel avodas Hashem. And even though in these verses there is a general commandment about serving God, mikol makom yesh behem gam tzivim yuchad lispalel, there is also included in this a specific commandment to pray. Shekain darshu chachamim she'avoda hi tefillah, because Chazal tell us that praying is tefillah. Shene'emar la'ahavas Hashem lekechem ule'avdo b'chol levavchem. Pasuk we're all familiar with. To love Hashem your God, but also to serve with all of your heart. For Darshu in the Gemara in Tainus and Daf Beis says, Ezehui avodah shebelev. What is considered worship of the heart or work of the heart? Havei omer zu tefillah. This refers to prayer. Ubetefillah achas b'chol yom yotzei adam leichovas mitzvahs hatefillah mehatorah. And according to the Rambam, one prayer a day, every day, each day, a person will then fulfill and exempt his obligation from the Torah to pray. V'chiyav mitzvah kachu. So what is the nature of this obligation? What is the mitzvah? Sheiftachas hatfil b'shevach laHashem. You have to open up your prayer with praise to God. Mito kach yisha'el es tzarchav. And through this, you will then ask for your needs. V'yisayim behoda ala tova sheshbiya lo Hashem yisbarach. And then you conclude with thanksgiving for the good that Hashem has given to you in this world. V'hayu shekitzu b'tfileitzim and v'hayu she'erichu. There are some that had very short types of prayer and some that had very long ones. V'kulam yatzu dei chavasam, and each one is fulfilling his or her obligation. Shemei Torah ain't shir l'tefillah, because according to the Rambam, he says in Hilchos Tefillah, it's the very beginning of Hilchos Tefillah in Perek Aleph in the Yad HaChazaka, that there is no set space, time, or amount of tefillah. That's the Rambam. Ulam ladas Ramban, however, according to Nachmanides, where Nachmanides has in the Sefer HaMitzvahs, he has something called Hasagos, and Hasagos are Rambam on the Rambam in different places. So he says, Ein chovim haTorah lispal b'chol. The Ramban says that there is no obligation in the Torah to daven. Also, it often gets confused, it's worth mentioning here, Rambam and Ramban. We talk about the Rambam, we're talking about Rav Moshe ben Maimonides, and Ramban is Rav Moshe ben Nachmanides. Often confused. So here's a little interesting tidbit of information that if one drives in the Rechavia section of Yerushalayim, so let's say you're going from the, let's say, Great Synagogue area around the corner from the King's Hotel, and there's Rehov Ramban. You make a right turn, Rehov Ramban, towards Rechavia and towards Eben Ezra, Usishkin, etc. And a parallel street, there is a nice, beautiful street there called Sderot Ben Maimon. And the creators of the cities of the streets of Jerusalem, when they decided to make it Ramban Street, and they called it Ben Maimon Street and not Rambam Street. And the reason is very simple. They didn't want people to get confused. You're going to an address on Ramban Street or Rambam Street, so therefore one is called Ramban and one is called Sderot Ben Maimon. So as you know, every rabbi is a frustrated Israeli tour guide, so there's just a little extra in there for you today. But I digress. So the Ramban says that there is no mitzvah, there's no obligation to daven every day. Because when the Rambam learns from the Pesukim as he did, as we just mentioned, it's what's called an asmachta. It's not a direct limit, the Ramban says. It's not a commandment, but that's the way the Rambam understands it. And therefore, why do we have tefillah every day? Because it was instituted by the men of the Great Assembly. Only when there's a time of need, a time of trouble, of peril, according to the Ramban, that's when we have to turn to Hashem and tefillah, because we learn in Parshas Baaloscha, when talking about the trumpets, it says, Al Hatzar Hatzorereschem, Haresim Chatzorsos, Vinizkartem Lefnei Hashem Lekechem, and Ushatem Me'oivechem. That when there is war and there is oppression and people are coming after you, that's when you have to sound the Chatzorsos, and you have to sound, and then you'll be saved. But that's a call for tefillah. Nimtza shehatfillah she'adam ispala be'es tzara hichov v'mator l'chaladeos. According to all opinions, when war is coming, when there's peril, which we might consider ourselves in right now, that then there's a mitzvah min Torah to daven, according to everyone. So therefore, if you or your friend, you're in peril, then you have to add in your regular tefillah an extra bakasha, an extra bequest, an extra asking for that deliverance from that particular tzara, because there is a mitzvah to daven to Hashem in a time of need. So how much more so when the community, the congregation are in a peril, that we have to have a congregational tzibur, and that's why we have all the various fast days that were established, let's say, when there was no rain and there was famine, etc. So we've had over the past now 16 months almost, many public prayer gatherings would definitely fall into this category, or the specific tefillahs that we add each and every day after davening, after Shachris and Mincha and Maariv, special tehillim that we recite, Achenu, etc., all would fall into this category according to all opinions. So there's an interesting machlokas, is tefillah an obligation or not? It would seem that most opinions paskin like the Ramban, not the Rambam, that we do not consider tefillah to be an obligation. We consider it to be obviously very, very important, but not a Torah obligation. But that doesn't mean that one shouldn't daven. We certainly should daven, and I think certainly we find ourselves now in an eis tzara, and we have to behave accordingly. So thank you so much for listening. Please continue davening for Chalei Tzvah and Yisrael Fushtem V'Chol Petzui Yisrael, safe return of all of our hostages. We've learned Nishmat, Sarah, and Daniel Shimon, Rav Durham, Vasheli, Shem Gadamo. Thank you so much for listening. Wishing you again a Chodesh Tov ahead. Great day. We'll see you here next time.